So right now, the Biden administration is attempting to get as many Americans vaccinated as possible in order to try to put an end to this pandemic. Now, I support that. Right now, hey, we're doing actually a lot better. We're vaccinating about 3 million Americans a day, the most that we've actually seen. So that's good. It's good news. We still have a long way to go, though. So I wouldn't go and, party just yet without your mask or anything like that. Now, that said, pharmaceutical companies, well, they know that things are getting a little bit better on the vaccine front. And so now they're planning to make a little bit of a profit. So according to a report by the Intercept, executives at Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer, the big pharmaceutical companies, are quietly planning to hike prices on the doses of their vaccines in the near future once they decide the pandemic is over. Now, wait a minute. They decide the pandemic is over. What about the scientists? What about the scientists? I mean, and the epidemiologists? Aren't they the ones that are supposed to decide, looking at the facts and the data, that this pandemic is over? Apparently not, according to, these companies. They're like, no, we decide it's over, when we can get away with basically jacking up the price on these vaccines. So now Fang, the Intercept, writes, although the rapid development of the coronavirus vaccines made possible by large infusions of public resources has given big pharma companies a boost in goodwill, for now, the public is still sensitive to drug pricing, and the reputational risk has so far curtailed their ability to reap large financial rewards. So right now, everyone's like, oh, thank goodness for the vaccines, right? Oh, they did a good job, and that's great, and we're going to be able to get back to normal. But we still remember, for example, Joe Manchin's daughter, CEO of a company who makes, insulin injections, okay? Where she hiked the price up of insulin to like $600 for 2 doses. That's insanity. And then, of course, you have Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, who also jacked the price up of an anti-malaria drug to, like, I don't know, some insane amount. And so, okay, so that's a couple of examples of pharmaceutical greed. So this is a business model that is based on trying to bilk people out of money who need these medicines to survive. And not only that, not only are they acting as a parasitical middleman, between people getting, their medication, they also rely on government funding for research and development. So really, when they're charging us for a medication that we have already put public resources into, well, they're essentially charging us twice for something that we have already paid for. So that is ridiculous. All right. That said, now Fang noted that the environment that they hope will eventually change once the pandemic ends, a date that drug makers themselves reserve the right to declare. Now, he also writes that many epidemiologists expect the coronavirus to become endemic soon. And as COVID-19 mutations continue to spread, booster shots may be required on a regular basis. Leaders from the 3 companies are enthusiastic about cashing in. Now, as this shifts from pandemic to endemic, this is Pfizer's chief financial officer, Frank D'Amelio, says, we think there's an opportunity here for us. So now this was happened. These statements had been caught during a recent healthcare conference sponsored by a bank. Great, by a bank. He said that a potential need for boosters provides a significant opportunity for our vaccine from a demand perspective, from a pricing perspective, given the clinical profile of our vaccine. So basically, we plan to increase the price of the boosters. We're going to rely on this coronavirus now being a daily part of our lives. So now it's going to come back, It could be a seasonal thing that comes back like the flu. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jack the price up of the coronavirus vaccine, these booster shots, and then roll in the money. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to roll in that cash. Now, Moderna and Johnson & Johnson have also pledged affordability in their vaccines for the duration of the pandemic, but have indicated to investors that they plan to return to more commercial pricing for their vaccines as early as later this year. The three companies behind the approved COVID-19 vaccines, which are already poised to become to be some of the most lucrative drugs of all time, expect to bring in billions in profit this year alone, Fang noted. Now, to illustrate how sick, no pun intended, this entire thing is. Remember, the U.S. government, i.e. us, fully funded and financed the research and development of both Moderna and Johnson & Johnson's vaccines. Now, Pfizer's was a little bit of a different story. They were actually developed in partnership with BioNTech, but that's a company that received nearly $500 million in development assistance from the German government. So they also got funding from a government, just not the American government. Now, this vaccine, at least when it comes to Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, we already paid for. What right did they have to then turn it back around and sell it to us? We fully funded this. These should not be used for these private, the profits of these private corporations. All right. However, Pfizer, who, again, did receive money from the German government, not the U.S. government, is very clear about the enormous money-making opportunity they see with these vaccines. Carter Lewis Gould, an analyst of Barclays, noted that Pfizer faced particular challenges with optics, but asked when the company could pursue higher pricing down the road. See, these companies, they know it looks bad because it is bad. Basically, they're acting as a middleman at this point, okay? And they're basically, again, taking this vaccine that we have paid for as taxpayers, and now have decided that we are going to make an egregious amount of profit from it by raising these prices. Now, already, Pfizer is selling the vaccine to the U.S. for about $20 a dose. And now it's actually much more in the EU. It's actually about $65 a dose. Leading projections, the company would bring in about $15 billion this year alone from sales, $4 billion of which would be purely profit. Those revenue projections are based on prices largely negotiated with governments under pandemic conditions, however, which could soon change. So not only are they making billions in profit right now, but once they raise the prices, it's an even bigger windfall of cash. Obviously, this is not a good situation. Vaccines should absolutely be free for not only every American, but we also should start guaranteeing vaccines for other countries, these developing countries as well. They're as susceptible to the virus as we are. And yet, there is a huge inequality in who is actually getting the vaccine. It is, of course, Western countries that are getting this vaccine more so than any other country, than any other region as well. So now, what's interesting about this, I'm going to go to a quote in this piece by Achal Prabhala, the coordinator for the Access IBSA project. Now, what they advocate for is access to medicine. All right. Now, he told Fang that Americans are amazed that they're getting vaccines for free because it's subsidized by the government, as I said before. Okay, but I mean, they're actually not getting them for free, as he points out, because they already paid for them once, and now they're amazed that they're not paying for them twice. Now, that alone says one thing that's really important. Us Americans are used to being screwed in ways that other countries, other people in other countries can't even fathom. The fact that we have for-profit healthcare and we pay things like not only premiums, but also pay deductibles. Other countries, they look at us and they're like, you Americans are stupid. You're barbarians. What are you doing? You have a healthcare system where you can't even call an ambulance because that you end up having to pay $3,000 for the Wii U wagon. Okay. What? No, this doesn't happen in our countries. This doesn't happen in Germany. This doesn't happen in Denmark. This only happens really in America. What are you doing? And yet Americans over here are like, oh man, I'm so glad I didn't have to pay for a vaccine that I already paid for with my taxes. Woo, glad I didn't get double charged this time. But that'll change. Once it becomes endemic, it'll change. And suddenly we will start to have to pay, we'll start having to pay, not just once, but again, twice, much more so. In fact, companies like Pfizer, which has not made the vaccine available to 85% of the world's population, are enjoying immense popularity, probably continued, in the US and Europe because of the fact that they got the vaccines done fast. They seem to work well. It's an unusually good position for pharma. They're not used to being thought of as saviors. It's pretty interesting. They are now waiting for the opportune time to raise prices once enough people have been vaccinated. Well, that's what they do. And let's be clear. While the researchers, the manufacturers, the actual workers, they did amazing work in bringing us these vaccines. They really did. The ones at the top, however, that are making these decisions, that are talking about potential for massive profit, they're the problem. The executives are the problem. They exist only to siphon money off life-saving drugs from the American people. That the American people, again, usually in the case of a lot of these drugs, research and development costs already paid for. They provide no actual benefit to the American people. Leaving this for profit leaves no benefit for the American people. These companies are essentially parasites, middlemen. A lot of the research is actually done in our colleges as well. So there's literally almost no reason for these companies to not only exist, but to give massive amounts of money and then be allowed to turn around and sell it back to us so that they can make a profit. Think about that. When you think of all the inequities and how disastrous our healthcare system is, all you have to do is substitute pharmaceutical companies with insurance companies. And the same thing happens in the rest of our healthcare system. The profit motive is killing not only the healthcare system, but the American people as well. We need to get rid of these companies and also need to get rid of insurance companies and institute Medicare for all. It's the only way to really save us, our money, and our lives. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.